Hello and welcome to Super Rugby Aotearoa, or Aotearoa, sorry, round 4, and Super Rugby AU. They don't give me a kind of difficult word, or Australia, or what is it? Anyway, Super Rugby over there, big round island thing. Round 1, yes, lots of live rugby coming to you. So what do we have? We have the Brumbies versus the Rebels, the Reds versus the Waratahs, the gone blank Chiefs Hurricanes, and also the Highlanders versus the Crusaders. 4 whole games. I mean, how are we going to cope with that? That's twice as much rugby as we had last weekend. I mean, someone's going to explode with excitement. And people who do talk about people with excitement. How you doing there, Steve? You're one of these excitement machines. Are you? Have you got the I don't know, the valve set so you don't explode this weekend?
Oh, we're just at the peak, about ready to go. Yep, we're bursting at the seams. There's a good analogy I was waiting for. Yep, ready to go. It's good, isn't it? We're doubling up the effort, and we're doubling up the excitement, and hopefully the Australians don't let us down. Come on.
Ooh, shame, that's harsh, isn't it? That's you guys have been watching over the ditch and going, those guys are doing. Where's ours? Finally, you're here. You're ready to hit it. Looking forward to it this weekend.
We're back, and everybody's come out. You know, it's been so exciting. I've seen old friends that I haven't seen in 3 months. The kangaroos, the snakes, the emus, the koalas. Everybody's out now. They're saying, "Shane, rugby's on." So, you know, I've got some friends. I've got all the essential staff back to watch some rugby. So, bring it on. We're excited. And what a way to kick it off with the traditional derby, the Reds and the Waratah. I'm excited.
Origin kind of stuff. That's what we're talking about there. Has anyone bothered over in Australia about the new laws? Or are they just kind of like, whatever, just show us rugby. We don't care about the detail.
Yeah, I think it was used in the NRC last year, so it's probably something similar to that, and a mixture of what Twiggy Forrest's Global Rapid Rugby used as well. So we're going to see something very similar to that. Whether or not it turns out to be as premium as the New Zealand competition is another question. But you know, we just want to watch our rugby, as well as the Kiwis go around, and hopefully South Africa in August as well.
Oh, whoa! Don't get
cool.
Wow, the positivity in the room is just exploding. South Africa as well in August. My word, I'm not sure if my heart can take it. Dearie me. So I'm just trying to remember which game we're kicking off with this weekend. I should have brought up my my picks. The old Super Brew is a great place to keep track of this stuff, folks. So if you're into Super Brew, if you're into predictions and stuff, want to know what game is when, Super Brew is really kind of handy. Now, Cornflake, do you want to show us something?
Do you want to show you something? Well, not this.
Oh yes, exactly. The yellow cap. If you are if you get the most picks in a weekend, they give you a virtual yellow cap. And as you can see, Cornflake has been doing pretty well in Super Rugby Aotearoa so far. 6 out of 6, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm 100%. Got the old every single one right so far. I think my margins are, what am I out by? My margin accuracy is 4.8. So, I mean, that's pretty damn good if you ask me. So I'm pretty happy with how I'm going. And again, I just hope the Aussies don't let me down.
So this weekend, we kick off in, well, just about an hour's time, or it's an hour and a half's time, with the Reds versus the Waratahs. Shane, you've got your Reds jersey on, so obviously you're happy for it to be back. What do you think of Brad? I mean, one of the problems we've had with one of the problems the Reds have had is obviously their players kind of refusing to take pay cuts, and 3 of them leaving. What is there any sort of news around how the camp is feeling, and what do you think? What do you think of this Reds team as they go into their opening game?
Well, I don't know, Paul. You know, like Isaac Rodder obviously is the highest profile, being a Wallaby out of those 3. I think Lucas and Hockings were the other two. Hockings had been talked up as a potential Wallaby, and Lucas a handy utility. Look, somehow I think, and this is my personal opinion, I could be wrong, but I think Isaac Rodder being overlooked for the captaincy of the Reds too. Maybe some personal differences with Brad Thorne and his coaching. You know, if you read between the lines, that those sort of things are out there. But yeah, it's disappointing. But you know, they're rugby players; they want to make money and play against some good opposition and play for some good sides. So I wish them well in whatever future they go forward with.
So looking at that Reds side then, Poppets, Puangamosa, Tupu in the front row, Blythe, Salakai Lotto in the engine room, Wright, McWright, Wilson in the Lucy's, McDermott and James O'Connor. Yes, they're running things. Stuart Parsimi in the centres, Dugunu, Campbell the wings with Hegarty at fullback, Maffey, Smith, Nasser, Talai, Tuilama, Scott Young, Malaulu, Fanga Sayati, and Fluke are the replacements. Fluke, perfect. That's what you need. Someone who just flukes things. Doesn't matter how you do it. Just finish it off, eh, Josh? Go for it. To me, the big news there is actually that James O'Connor, Hamish Stewart, and Bryce Hegarty all in the same team. Pretty much three fly halves there. That's a lot of playmaking, a lot of kicking there, isn't there, Steve? Not sure about the carrying though.
Yeah, well, I mean, does that sort of give you some sort of indication as to where the Reds are going to play this game and go into this competition with that sort of mindset of how they're going to go about the game? We know that this Reds team has a really good pack. They're pretty mobile. They're strong. They do a lot of the hard running and general play. They do a lot of the carrying. So it gives a chance for some creativity around. I mean, James O'Connor, as we've talked about in the past, isn't your out-and-out just stock number 10, is he? He's more of a centre, more of a just about play anywhere else in the back line, but number 10. And you're going to see, I think, those guys swap around quite a lot. Hamish Stewart spent a lot of time there. You say Hegarty spent a lot of time there as well. So you're going to see those guys feeding off each other. You're going to see them chopping and changing at first receiver. You're going to see O'Connor further out wide on at times as well. So I think it's good for their versatility, and I think it does suit the team the way that they play quite well, and I expect you'll see them kick quite a lot given that too. So get that forward pack going forward, get them on the front foot, and hopefully put them in some good positions to do some barnstorming runs, because I think that's definitely where they've got the incentive over the Waratahs is in that pack, and you can expect there's going to be some hard work done there by those big guys, the Taliana Tupos, the Salakai Lotos, those sort of guys definitely love that hard work. And Liam Wright, the captain, as we've already mentioned before, he's got to be a guy who steps up and is a real leader in this team despite his young age, and that's what the Reds need as well.
So Shane, on the same page there, lots of hard carrying, and then those three guys doing lots of kicking. Is that what you're expecting?
Not so much kicking with O'Connor. O'Connor ran the ball quite a bit during the previous instalment, if you like, of Super Rugby before we had to call curtains on that. I think that the most important thing here for the Reds is just getting the forwards to do the hard work and then allowing some space for the backs to get some damage done there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Tate McDermott run a lot with the ball, O'Connor to run and try and create the space for his inside centre, his fullback, his wingers. I'm expecting a lot of cutout balls too. So I'm expecting the Reds to just go out there. And on a personal note, I think Liam Wright was the right choice to be captain of our club instead of Isaac Rodder.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like that now. Going over to then the Tars, looking at Bell, Abel, Johnson, Holmes in the forward line, Hannigan and Simmons in the engine room. Hannigan more sort of 5.5 rather than a lock. Swinton, Hooper and Harris are the Lucies. We have Short and Harrison at 9 and 10. In the centres, Walton and Newsom. And then we have the wingers. And this is what Stephen is waiting for, because we have Nwanga Nitawasi on one wing, Ram on the other, and Maddox at fullback. Amongst the replacements, Horton, Faulkner, Tuakapulu, Staniforth, Dempsey, McDonald, Donaldson, and Morea. You've got to say that we've got a fair few names in that. Actually, before I get any further, Steve, how did I do with Marky Mark?
Oh, pretty solid. I'll give that a definite solid 90% pass mark on good old Mark. It's better than Marky, mate. You can't call him that anymore. We've got him in forward. Nwanga Nitawasi, that's the guy's name. Everyone's got to nail it. Practice it, everyone, because he's going to be a superstar of not only today, but the future of Australian rugby as well. He is just a talent.
So for those that don't know, probably many of you don't know, this is the third time that Cornflake and I have talked about these games this weekend. Okay, we've done it for a show in South Africa. We've done it for Steve's YouTube channel, and now we're doing it for mine. We were talking about him, and he's 19. He's got a good 15 years left on him as a player. So yes, get used to saying his name, because he's going to be around for a long time. But the player that we really actually should concentrate on is Will Harrison. I think he's someone that Rene has come out saying he's a really good player. So it sounds like he might be the Wallabies' number 10. Shane, do you think he's got what it takes to lead this Waratahs side?
No. No, I don't. I just not yet, anyway. Look, he's a young kid. He's going to need probably the next 2 seasons to really develop his game, and that's just honest. It'll take more than a domestic comp to develop his game. Pardon me. Look, I wonder if they've got that 10 stock, and really when the Shoot Shield starts up in Sydney Club Rugby, I really want the Waratahs coaching staff to get on their televisions, their iPads, whatever, and start looking at making sure they have backup options for that 10, because that's a real worry for me. Jake Gordon can handle it at 9. He's been capped as well for the Wallabies. Beale, I think Beale was ready to move on to a new future, and I wish him well.
Beale's already gone. Yeah, Beale's already on to France. Gordon's not even selected this weekend. So yeah, really are testing the Waratahs' depth. Mac Mason, who was someone who was Foley's understudy for many years, also another guy on the outer who's been told, yeah, just stay in Melbourne, don't bother coming home. We don't need you. There are definitely. This really is a youthful. It's a mixture, as some people have said, of really young guys and really old guys in your Simmons, Hoopers, and maybe Newsom. I don't know, Newsom's not that old, I think. It's a mixture of some very young, inexperienced guys with a couple of experienced heads around. Not really the kind of Waratahs side we're expected. We're used to having basically an entire backline of Wallabies in a Tars side. You think about when you think about your Adam Ashley Coopers, your Falaus, your Beale, you add in is it Isaac Rodder? Not Isaac Rodder. Sorry, I've gone blank. The guy who took cocaine and
Carmichael Hunt.
Carmichael Hunt. All these kind of players that have all been Wallabies, and they say looking at that back line and going, yeah, not many Wallabies there really.
It's going to be a struggling season for them, isn't it? I think, because they're lacking a lot of. They've got a lot of holes, so they're lacking a lot of players to really fill those holes that are experienced. And against a team like the Reds, like I've already pinpointed, that pack, that tight 5, that second row, like you already stated as well. Experience, but I mean, those guys, I think, are going to struggle in the way this game goes in the big boys game. We've already seen in Super Rugby Aotearoa how the game is around big ball runners. We see the standout stars are the guys like Hoskins Tutu and Makeli Tu'u, those big number 8s, those big ball runners. They're the guys everyone's watching, and they're the guys like Salakai Loto, for the Reds. The days of a Ned Hannigan and a Rob Simmons, they're the workmen like sort of guys that just trudge around the field. They're not going to change the game. They're not going to be explosive enough, I don't think, for the Waratahs to get much more out of just their core roles during this matchup. So I think that's where they're going to really struggle throughout this. Harry Johnson-Holmes is a good player. I think there's a good future on him. We've seen him around a lot already, but yeah, there's a lot to be proven. I guess I spoke about it in my previews we did earlier. This is the time for Australia to do this. This is the time to put out these guys that are unknown, the guys that they want to risk and take a chance and see what they're really made of. Because, like I've said there, the media, they can always be happy because an Australian team's going to win. So, I mean, that's always a positive they've got to take from it. And they can see out there and they say, yep, I mean, if you can't cut it against the Reds and the Force and the Brumbies and the Waratahs and the Rebels, then, you know, you're probably not up to that sort of standard of Super Rugby, let alone internationally further on from there. So it's a big make or break season for them. I think this is year to really throw it all out there. The Waratahs certainly have done that. There's a lot of names in there that have few to no caps, and we're going to see just what they're made of. And I think we're going to see a lot of changes, a lot of rotations, and a lot more new faces come through the competition as it goes on week by week.
So there you go, folks. You've just heard it from Cornflake. Everyone's a winner. You can't lose in this competition, which is great. So, and one of the good things about Australian rugby is the fact that their under 20s were at they went to the final, lost to France last year. They've beaten the New Zealand schools for the past couple of years. Look, there's a lot of young guys coming through who are really talented. The question is, how do they make that transition from being the best in their age group to being the best as a professional player amongst 15 age groups, which is what the difference is. So we'll see how that goes. I made my pick before I saw the lineups, and I went Waratahs by 3 because the disruption amongst the Reds with those players leaving. I'm a lot less confident now. And Shane, which way did you go? What's your prediction of this game?
I'd love to see Reds win, but I think it'll be the Waratahs by 5.
Waratahs by 5, okay.
It'll be, I think, a good game.
Cornflake?
Well, I'm going to back your edge, Shane. Don't worry. I'll do the good deed here. Going by your comments here, I mean, it's good we've got all these young guys, but I mean, the thing that young guys need, following on from your point there, Paul, is they need the old guys to learn off as well. So it's easy to do a clean sweep and say this is a fresh blood, but they need that experience to learn off. Look at the impact that Dan Carter's had on the Blues. He probably won't take the field if he, once or twice he might run on for a couple of minutes just to get some tickets and some bums on seats, but he is going to teach young guys so much, and that's what Australian rugby still needs. They don't need to be starters. They don't need to be guys that are always there, but they need to teach. They need to show the skills to that next age group. And with that, I'm going to go with the Reds to pick up the victory by 2 solitary points. It's going to be close. It's going to be exciting, and the Reds are going to get the job done. Don't worry, Shane.
So yes, so folks, straight after this, we'll be straight into that live game, and we're expecting it to be a tight one. So do enjoy it. Don't leave your seat. I think this is one to have your TV dinner on your knee, watching the game. Absolutely, don't disappear off into the dining room. Okay, tomorrow we kick off with the Highlanders versus the Crusaders. Let's run through that Highlanders lineup for you. Leonard Brown, Coltman, Wait in the front row, Parkinson, Dixon in the engine room, Frizzell, Hunt, Makalei, 2 are the Lucies, Smith and Hunt running things, Tompkinson and Thompson are in the centres with Nariki, Puniave and Collins in the back 3. Looking at the bench, Dixon, Johnston, Tuolahi, Wetton, Ben Nicholas, the forward replacements, Hamilton, Gatland and Karai are the backs replacements. So, Steve, obviously you're wearing your Highlanders hoodie there. We've got a change at fullback, which I think was probably expected after last weekend's shocker and in very wet conditions. To be fair, I've gone blank as to his name. Gregory. I was thinking it's Shane Gregory, isn't it? Scott Gregory. Oh, I knew it was an S. Oh, dear. There we go. So yeah, getting the steady Collins back to anchor things back there will add some certainty at the back, which is looking good. Are you happy with the rest of the team, or are there any other changes you would like to have seen for the Landers?
Yeah, well, what's interesting, the more I've looked at this game, is that the whole front row has actually changed, which I didn't notice in the first outset of looking at this team. So Daniel Leonard-Brown, Liam Coltman, and Jeff Thwaites is a change from the Aidan Johnson, Ash Dixon, and Siati Tokalahi. So a complete swap of that front row is a really, really interesting tactic, especially against pretty much like it's nearly half an All Black front row of Moody Taylor and Ala Aotearoa on the other side. So big pressure is going to be on that. But yeah, you can't be not impressed by what this Highlanders team has put out this season. Really good forward performances. The standout players, like we've already talked about, the Makalei Tu'us, the Shannon Frizzels are standing up. Dylan Hunt's the back row is really performing nicely. Parkinson and Dixon are smashing the line out. It's probably one of, if not the best line out in the competition. They're really, really playing nicely. They're settled down now with the injury to Josh Ioane. So Mitch Hunt's got that 10 jumper, so they don't need to worry about where they're going to play players so that everyone can play. It's getting a bit more settled. It's getting a bit more consistent. They just need to sort out that 15 jumper. And I think Collins isn't obviously the best man in any team, but I mean, he's a solid player. He's a consistent sort of player. Doesn't do the highlights, but he doesn't do the lowlights either, and he's going to give you a solid performance. There's been question marks around it, hasn't there, over the last few weeks? Where's Josh Mackay? Where's Michael Collins? Where are these guys? As the fullback jumper just kept going from player to player to player, and no one really knew who was going to be playing in that position the next week. So I think we might get a little bit of consistency here with Michael Collins, provided he does actually show up decently for the Highlanders. Hopefully he has a decent enough match. But yeah, the team looks solid, and yeah, it's good. It's consistent, and they're playing well. And I think they've got good confidence behind them as well, which is the number one thing you need, that mental game. They do that, believe they can win against any opposition at home. Hopefully a solid, packed Forsyth bar will be behind them, and they should put on a decent performance, I think, and push the Crusaders hopefully all the way.
Yeah, Nocturnal Rights over there on YouTube says all front rows just as good as each other for the Highlanders. And as you say, he's changed the entire front row. So basically he's playing 2 units, which is good, which means they get to play with each other, they get to scrummage with each other, they get to lift with each other. They know how each other works, which I think is actually a really interesting one there by the coaches down there. So yes, looking forward to that. I mean, look, they won their first game by a point, lost the second by 3, I think it is. Look, the Highlanders are a side that stay in it, whatever. So look, this is going to be a close one. But the Crusaders, look, Moody, Taylor, Ala Aotearoa, Whitelock, Dunshay, Blackadder, Christie, Douglas, Pack, Drummond, Moanga, they're going to run things. Goodhue and Enor in the centres there. Franganuku, Jordan on the wing this time with Havili at fullback. Off the bench, Makaleo, Boyer, Jaeger, Quinton Strange back from injury, Havili, NRI, Pia for his debut, who is a fullback, and Reese on the bench there. So, Shane, look, 5 changes by the Crusaders. Are they taking the Highlanders lightly here?
I'd never take the Crusaders to be somebody that would not take any game seriously. I know how serious they are, being Australian. I think that they'll come out. That's the depth I think that they've got, and the depth that they have through their strength through Mitre 10 Cup and other competitions around. So good to see 5 new faces having a bit of a run. Good to see that they're mixing and matching and finding out what combination's good for them. And it's good for Ian Foster too, as he looks at potential All Blacks and those sort of things. So, yeah, look, Crusaders, I just see them merrily marching along.
a couple of losses to come. Obviously, Scott Barrett's now been basically out for the season. Definitely Super Rugby and potentially the entire rugby season. But also they've lost Cullen Grace, who's been the form number 6 in Super Rugby Aotearoa. He's also out for probably the season as well with a fractured thumb. So yeah, a couple of losses there in the pack, but yeah, I mean, Cornflake, they just bring quality in for quality, don't they?
It's Crusaders rugby, isn't it? It's what they do. They just keep churning them out, and they are just such a tough team to beat because of that depth. They just have that team unity that boosts the players. It makes the players look better than they possibly would be elsewhere. A la Josh Mackay, I'm looking at you. Things like that is what they bring, and that's what they deliver. And it's just a great team is the biggest thing. So yeah, great players. I think like the comments said there from Nocturnal Rights earlier about how the score generally is high at Forsyth Bar under the roof. It's good conditions. We're not going to see that rainy sort of wet ball that we have seen last weekend. So that's going to be good for the spectacle. But defence is going to be so vital. Keeping 15 players on the field going to be pretty important because you're going to need 15 players to defend as well. So there's a lot that could decide this game and edge this game either way. But I think the Highlanders have a good enough pack that they can believe that they can match them up there. And certainly in the set piece and places like that, they should be able to at least hold their own to be able to play their own game. What they can deliver out in the back line is another question. They need big performances for their outside backs, especially against the pace of Whaianuku and Will Jordan. Havili is just a hot knife, and the defensive line is his big block of butter. He is so dangerous. So that's what they've got to look out for. They've got to defend well on those guys. And the midfield battle as well is going to be another key one. But I have confidence in Tompkinson and Thompson. I think those two guys are certainly at the peak for the Highlanders. So it's going to be a nice backline battle. Should see plenty of points, and we should see a nice, clean game under the roof.
Well, not sure about clean game as far as penalties go, but we'll see about
no mud.
No mud.
No mud.
Keep the jerseys clean so I can do so much wash afterwards, which is good. Look, even with all that, I've gone Crusaders by 3. It's just very difficult to pick against them. Shane, what's your prediction for this game?
Very relaxed. Crusaders by 10.
By 10? Oh. Wow.
I think they're just too professional. But I think the Highlanders will turn up and give it a go.
Cornflake, before you fall off your chair.
I don't think I'm going to recover from that one. Shot straight through the heart. I agree with you guys. I've gone the Crusaders to win this one as well. I think it's going to be close, though. I got a small margin of just 5. But yeah, a losing bonus point. I think the Highlanders should be happy if they can snaffle away with that. Will be the minimum of their expectations. But I think they should go into this one believing that they can beat anyone. And the Crusaders are no different. Doesn't matter what colour your shirt is, what name is on the back, or anything like that. I think the Highlanders are good enough to beat anyone this year.
Yep, that's we've seen a lot of close games. I think it's going to be within a score as well. But I think we've all gone for a red jersey win on that one. Moving on then, straight after this one, we head over to Canberra, where the Brumbies will take on the Rebels. Now, I know a lot of you will have watched Squidge Rugby's video that he's done for World Rugby about Super Rugby AU, and he said there's no clear leader in this one. And I'm like, what? Seriously? Look, the Brumbies come into this as definitely as the major favourites for this conference. Let's be honest. I think that we'll I don't know where we've just lost Shane. Unfortunately, sorry folks. But Brumbies definitely go into this tournament as the major favourites, and you can see that with their lineup. Let's be honest. Slipper, Fainga, Toa in that front row, so an all Wallabies front row. Swain and Douglas in the engine room. Valentini, Cusack, Samu are the back 3. Joe Powell and Lolieseo to run things with Simone and Kirandrani in the centres. Right, Muirhead and Hansen as the back 3. McKerney, CO, Ross come off the bench, followed by McCarthy and Miller, and then Fines. Coenzi and Ikatua are the with only Fines being the only debutant for this one. I mean, conflict. You go through that and go, I actually recognise most of those names. Unlike the Reds and the Waratahs, you're like, this is much more the kind of side I expect to see in Super Rugby.
100%. I looked at this team when it released, and I thought, after seeing the teams from the Reds to the Waratahs, especially that Waratahs team, and I looked at this and going, yeah, well, the Brumbies have just carried on as they were. So, they know what to do. They know what to expect, and they should just be cruising. But it's such a good team by Australian standards. It is just right up there. That pack it kind of looks untouchable. We talk about how the Reds got this young, exciting, explosive pack. But, I mean, this is just such a professional, do your job, know your role, get the job done sort of pack. They're very good. Flaufanger loves to score tries, and I'm sure we will see him dotting down for some more during this competition. It's just so professional looking. And they are the crusaders of Australian rugby, aren't they? They just look so very good. The thing that really blew me off about that video that I watched.
Careful with your words. Blew you away, not blew you off.
Blew me off guard with that video from Squidge was how he talked about no Pocock in their team. And I was just like, what are you talking about? Pocock was injured for that whole season. That he played like one game and he just sat the rest out. It's like he was just there for the ride to the World Cup. He was no impact to the Brumbies whatsoever, to Australian rugby pretty much at all during the regular season. They won't miss him because he was never there to start with. I thought it was a touch misleading on some things, but yeah, the Brumbies just look next level, don't they? And I think they're going to take this one quite comfortably throughout pretty much the whole season. They might get an upset or two along the way, but they look certainly a class above on paper.
Yeah, I mean, that Pocock thing, like, has Pocock strung more than 3 games together since the 2015 Rugby World Cup? To be honest, I mean, he's a bit like Neymar Scudder, unfortunately. Another fantastic game-changing player, but unfortunately just can't seem to get more than 2 games before they break down, unfortunately. So yes, and as apparently Squidge only pays attention to the Chiefs. There we go. So looking at this, yeah, I mean, well-oiled machine. Shane, I mean, you talked earlier about the sort of the pre-lockdown Super Rugby, and boy, the Brumbies did look the business before then, didn't they?
They did, and they're a professional outfit. They're not afraid of any side that comes their way, and that's the one thing that I wish would be applied to, say, the Wallabies. But the Brumbies have a way. They have a good culture and system. They look after their players. They're very much a family-orientated club, and it's going to be no different. And I've got to say, firstly, here, well done to the organisation allowing the members to come in and watch the game tomorrow night in Canberra. Well done. So this is the Great Southern Derby, as I like to call it, because they're the 2 furthermost southern parts of the competition. The Rebels will be up to it. The games have been of a reasonable quality. So I think it's going to be very close. Very, very, very close. But I think that the Brumbies have an edge with that pack. They have an edge with their backline. And they've got very, very well-trained reserves as well.
So let's run through that Rebels team then. Gibbon, Uliesi, Famaus, Lisi, front row. Philip, Stolberg in the engine room. Kemeny, Hardwick, Wells are your Lucies. Lawrence and Matt Tamua are going to run things. Meeks and Hodge in the centres. Hodge in the 13 jersey. Well, let's see. How many more numbers can he get in his back before the end of his career? He's played in every single position that's got 2 figures or 2 numbers in his back, I think, pretty much. Your back 3, Corabetti, Kellaway and Haylett Petty. Off the bench, Maufu or Ainsley for the front row. Hosea, Hannigan, and then Loetta, Lamani and Deegan there. The Rebels, Steve, a team that a lot of names that we kind of recognise but tend to be less than the sum of their parts.
Oh, the Rebels, they're just not consistent enough, are they? They don't have that team unity, that team culture that I think the good teams, the best teams really do have on their side. And that's where I think they struggle the most. They don't have that ability to I guess, play for each other in the top level fact of it. Sure, they know the team, they know their players, but they just don't have that sort of next level ability. Decent players in there. You look through, they're a bit like the Waratahs. They're a bit this way and that way, especially in the pack. Matt Phillip is a guy I especially expect to stand out for them again this season. He's been a really, really good player for them throughout the last year or so. But in that back line, if Matt Tamua can play like a proper number 10, they may be onto something. If he plays like he wants to play at 12, then I think they're going to struggle to get anything out of the pretty highly talented backline that they have. You look through the whole lot of them, and these guys are all top-level players. If they can get the best out of their pack and get a little bit of ball against that Brumbies team, they could be onto something if they can thread it through Tamua and into that back line. But I think it's still going to be hard work. I think they're going to be going backwards. And from there, they're going to struggle to really get any sort of momentum and play on that front foot, which is going to be a struggle. With Timua's not the most comfortable there. He's going backwards. He's struggling. It's going to run through the whole side.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, kind of a Rebels team that's going to try and play flash rugby against the Brumbies team that's going to play percentage rugby kind of feels feels like what we're going to see this time. And look, that Brumbies back line with players like Corabetti and the train there to get through the K train to get over that game line. Look, they're not. They've got skills themselves. Jordan Clark's gone Brumbies by 15. And we've had the betting stick go Brumbies by 11. They've both gone large. I've gone Brumbies by 5 there. Shane, what kind of margin? Because everyone seems to be saying Brumbies.
Brumbies by 7 for me. And congratulations to Matt Tamua, 100 Super Rugby caps. That's an elite effort.
A round of applause. Steve, everyone else is going double figures. What's your call on this one?
Yeah, I'm joining them. I'm going straight for the double figures as well. I've got the 2 1s. Brumbies by 11 for me.
Are you and the betting Stig are together? Maybe you are betting Stig, and we just don't know it yet. Hey, who knows who the Stig is, eh? We can't let that secret out.
Hidden behind the yellow cap.
Then on Sunday, we have the Chiefs versus the Hurricanes, and I can't believe I've not got the Chiefs lineup in front of me. I'll just bring it up now. There we go. So the Chiefs, a team with a longer injury list than they have available players list at the moment. Or that's what it feels like anyway. Aidan Ross, Bradley Slater, Lualala in the front row, Brown and Akoi in the engine room, Boshier, Kane and Soakula are your Lucy's. Weber and Cruden going to run things with them. Tapia and Manu there. Tapia in that 12 jersey, a number that I've not seen him wear, and I've seen a lot of Waikato games. You then have Nanai Satoro and Wainui with Dave McKenzie at 15. Off the bench, Tokilaho, O'Neill and Glenda Heiss, Va'i and Nell are your forward replacements. Tarangi, Trask and Alamalo are your backs replacements. Steve, concerned there that basically the Gallagher Chiefs have got lots of outside centres and no one who can play 12?
Well, I mean, the big concern for them is the guy that's missing, isn't it? Sure, he's not being in the greatest form, but Mr. Anton Leonard-Brown, concussion has seen him miss this matchup. It's a bit of a shame because I think he's a guy that New Zealand rugby does need to be playing and does need to be getting into form. But, yep, they're going to be missing him. But I think for the Chiefs, thinking about the short term, thinking about the now, this may be a better option for them with a guy like Tamura Manu, who's actually been fairly decent in the performances, the few he's had off the bench. He's been pretty impactful. So I'm kind of excited to see what he'll bring. Yeah, and I'm like you. Quintapia, 12. I mean, we're going to see 2 big freight trains just crashing into each other with the man he's up against on the other side as well. So that could be a bit of a, 2 big rocks just like smashing in the middle of a forest with those 2 guys running at each other. So, yeah, interesting times, but I think that the big battle for here is going to be in the number 10 jumper, and Aaron Cruden, I think, needs a big game alongside Brad Weber, 9 and 10. That is just critically key for this game. But the doubt with that is if you kick to the corners, do the Chiefs have the guts? Do they have the pack that can actually win their own set piece, which has been the real struggle for them this season? Although I'm not going to go on about that again. We've talked enough about these second row over the last 4 weeks that we don't want to talk about that again. But yeah, the line out, yep, he's right. Chiefs line out still looks disorganized last week. I think they put a bit more effort in. They disrupted a bit better, but
right. Disorganized is being kind, all right?
Very kind.
Sony came on in the second half and he throws a line out and no one even jumps. I mean, come on, that's not disorganized. That's a total rabble of a line out, I'm afraid, folks. Hopefully they've had that drilled into them. Also, question: where's Nankivell? Look, I think that to be fair, I think Manu and Nankivell are both much as in quality. But Nankivell is a 12, so from that point of view, yes, got to wonder there why he's not come in, because all the Antoinette Brown, Tapia, and Manu are all 13s through and through, to be honest. So from a balance point of view. But I'm personally I'm happy to see Manu get a run out. I must admit, I don't know where Nankivell is. To be fair, Shane, what are you expecting from this Chiefs team?
Well, I'm expecting them to have a go because this is actually my second favourite derby in New Zealand. I actually call it the Hawaiian shirt derby because I seem to be at the pub wearing a Hawaiian shirt every time these sides play. Look, I'm looking at the Chiefs and I'm thinking it's always a question that we've always asked ourselves over the last 2 years, Paul, depth and whether they can cover certain positions and whether they can't. And, look, it depends on what Chiefs side turns up, doesn't it? And Warren Gatlin's got to get the best out of what he's got on the park tomorrow.
Yeah, he has to. Let's move on now to look at their opponents, the Canes. So Armstrong, Coles, Lomax are the front row. Blackwell and Scrafton in the engine room with Princep, Karifi and Ali Surveyor are your Lucy's. TJ and Garden Bashop are running things with Lamapi and Peter Amanga Jensen are going to be in the centres. Lamb, Van Wyck and the return of
I'm in the meeting, Mel.
At fullback there. Looking at the bench, Riccatelli, May, Fidel, Liam Mitchell. We've also got Jamie Booth and Billy Proctor and Wes Hewson are the backs replacements. So, Steve, when we were looking at this earlier, we were looking at saying, "Oh yeah, look, decent side," and then we actually looked a bit more decent. And went, "Wow, he's changed up quite a lot in this side, hasn't he?"
Yeah, there's quite a few names missing in there. The midfield one's probably the biggest one. No, Vince Arso. I thought him and Lamape were getting quite a bit of a roll on. They're playing quite well together, especially last weekend. So that was on their last matchup. So that was a bit of an improvement for them. But yeah, Hewson's gone. He wasn't offering too much. I like him as a player. I think he can offer something as the old school kind of small fleet-footed winger, but he really hasn't shown much this season. It's a chance for Van Wyk to come in here and do what he did earlier in the year. So big opportunities out there in their back line. Also no Vive Feeder in the pack, so they've gone back to those two locks of Blackwell and Scrafton in there in that second row. So a lot changing, but I think aside from the Arso thing and Umanga Jensen, I can kind of see what they're doing. If things aren't working, they're kind of changing it up to see if they can better it and improve it. But I don't think, well, who knows how Umanga Jensen's going to play. We haven't seen him too much, but I do think Arso was actually coming along quite nicely. I would have liked to see him continue on in his partnership with Lamape. So as long as they don't put him on the wing at any stage, that's what's going to be the disappointing thing. But he's not even on the bench. There's no thought of that here today. But yeah, good changes though, and I think they're thinking the Hurricanes and they're trying to improve, which is always a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like they're you say, yeah, looking at where things aren't going wrong and seeing if we can change it up and get a better player in there. Look, Shane, we quite often talk about them not having a powerful enough front five to cope, but with the Chiefs also not having a powerful front five, is this an opportunity for the two back lines to really go at each other? Do you think?
Yes, and with Geordie back in the lineup, which I've been excited about since I heard the news. Because at least one Barrett did stay at the Hurricanes and obviously one came to the Mighty Blues. Look, Barrett versus McKenzie is what I've been looking forward to all week. And because the tight fives, as you mentioned, they both struggle to get that grit going. It'll the quicker the play, the quicker to the backs. We might see a few tries in this one.
Maybe. I mean, looking at this, and I'm thinking, do the Chiefs have a better balanced back three? As Nocturnal Right says, so they need to move back to 7, need a big man at 8. But the Canes just don't have a big man at 8 anywhere in their squad, do they, Steve? I mean, it's just they're picking from what they've got.
Yeah, it's that case of putting your best players on the paddock, isn't it? I mean, I would like to put Fafita in there somewhere, but where does he kind of fit into that team? Do they go and put him at 6? They just don't have the options. They don't have the depth and in the side. So it's a bit of a shame because I think, like I talked about earlier, those big number 8s, they are taking this competition by storm, and the teams that don't have them are generally the teams that are suffering, bar the Chiefs. They've got a big man at 8, but not getting the big reward out of him like the other teams are. So that's what they need. They need that sort of guy. But Salvia is the best they've got in terms of a big man. He's going to do the best job in that position. He's a strong carrier of the ball, a good defender. So, yeah, it's the best of what they've got and the best that they can do with it. I do think in 10, though, is where we're really going to have issues. And I think that's where Geordie Barrett's really going to help this side massively, is getting them out of trouble, because Jackson Garden-Bishop, although has played decently enough, I think he's going to be outplayed here by an Aaron Cruden, who'll be wanting to prove something against the young whippersnapper that is Garden-Bishop. So Barrett's going to do a lot of that, I think, big pumping punts downfield. So we can expect to see a lot of that from him in this game. Yeah,
and it's going to be a wet one, folks. Much as Cornflake doesn't trust my meteorological skills.
Oh, no.
The weather forecast is it's going to be wet, and let's be honest, that is not Dave McKenzie's forte. So yes, Geordie Barrett versus Dave McKenzie, the howitzer of the boot versus a good kicker. Let's be blunt, but not the same length as Geordie, and maybe that might be one of the key things. But even so, I've still gone Chiefs by 5. Shane, what's your call?
I'm going to go the Hurricanes by 3.
Oh, an away win for Shane. Steve?
Yep, I'm on Shane's side of this one as well. I've gone Hurricanes by the 4 points on the road.
Oh dear, my guests don't have a clue, folks. I'm sorry. I'll try and really guess
6 out of 6,
or give them educate them between now and then. Looking forward to it, folks. Look, let's go grab ourselves a drink, get ourselves comfortable, because we're getting near kickoff. Super Rugby AU or Super Rugby Australia is about to start. So let's look forward to that. Reds versus Waratahs, the old Maroons versus the Blues. It should be a cracker, and enjoy the show. Please, folks, hit that old like on the old Facebook page. Also, download the podcast. Listen to us on the go. New Zealand Sports Radio. We're bringing you shows every single day of the week. That's right, 7 days a week. We are bringing you at least one show a day. So don't forget, get that podcast downloaded. Listen to us on the go, be it iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or Acast. And one thing we haven't talked about, Nocturnal Rights does it. This is a big game for TJ. If the antics continue, that could rub him out as the All Blacks bench 9. So yes, you're right. TJ versus Webber. This is an All Blacks trial match.